Om Devim Prasanam Pranasarti Hantrim Yogindra Pujam Jugadharma Patrim Tam Sharadam Bhakti Vijnana Datrim Daya Swarupam Pranamami Nityam Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. O Sarada, propitious goddess, killer of misery and souls resigned, savior of religion in every age, by saints and sages worshipped, O Mother kind. Give us love and wisdom, thou, O grace incarnate. To thee we bow. Om peace, peace, peace. And there shines Brahman. May that Brahman protect us, sustain us, and illumine our thinking consciousness, free us from fault-finding, and reveal to us the essence of the scriptures. Om peace, peace, peace. Peace be unto us, peace be unto all. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat. Good to be here with all of you, and also a very privilege to be able to speak about the subject closest to my heart, is Sri Sarada Devi, the Holy Mother, Sri Ramakrishna's divine consort, wife, and mother of the Ramakrishna Order Sangha, and mother of all people, as she said herself. Always remember you have a mother. So that's, of course, a many-sided statement that we can look into and contemplate, meditate upon, even as a source for everything. Nobody can deny that, the existence of that. So it ends up being a great source. And we know that that is called Shakti power, or sometimes Kundalini and other names. And that's the subtitle of this class, is the divine essence and embodiment of all goddesses, which makes her also the mother of all the gods, which we will see a little bit of today too. And it being the 22nd, it's her birthday. That's why we chose this day to present a class on her, whereas in the last Sundays, months of Sundays, we've been looking at the different Upanishads, Adhyatma and Advaya, Taraka Upanishad recently. So it's good to look at the mother of the Upanishads, if we want to say that. These are her wisdom scriptures. And she pronounces that in her own scripture called the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, which recently on a retreat, last Navaratri, we looked at on the west coast of the US mainland, and looked into at least 7 or 8 skandhas, or portions, chapters of that voluminous work, which unless you're pretty strong, you can't even lift it. You have to have strong arms to, so flipping the pages and holding that book. That's a great scripture of the mother tradition, along with what they call the Devi Mahatmyam, or better known probably as Chandi. So those 2 scriptures are specifically Divine Mother scriptures, and in SRV we've been looking deeply into them because she is our Ishtam of our Ishtam here in SRV, Sarada Ramakrishna Vivekananda. SRV stands for. And our gurus, those who initiated us, were direct disciples of Sri Sarada Devi's direct disciples. So we can look at that with great satisfaction and inspiration to know that we have a lineage, a transmission lineage going on in the West here, even in these modern times. And we don't have to look too far back to see the great sources of that tradition. In fact, 22nd today of December, her birthday. Then we have the 24th of December, which is the founding of the Ramakrishna Order, by those young boys who later turned into the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, 16 of them. And then 20, that's Christmas Eve. And then there's Christmas itself, which we look at as the birth of Jesus, and then celebrate that as he's one of the avatars that we look at in India, one of the divine incarnations. And then on Christmas also is our founder, Lexington's birthday. Born on Christmas, passed away on All Saints' Day. So picked a very good target for his arrival and departure in the body and out of the body. And I'm sure that just as you're looking on camera right now, that he's looking on through his wisdom eye and watching all that we do here since he has passed from the body. And so when we have Christmas, we think of also his divine appearance here. And then we move on to New Year for most people. New Year to us in Vedanta and Ramakrishna order has to do with the Kalpataru day, a wish-fulfilling tree. And that's a metaphor for God, or for the one who is watching through that transcendent eye and granting all the prayers of people. But in traditional fashion, we have to say about the Kalpataru tree that it's very, very ancient, and so might be a little hard of hearing. So you have to come close to it to speak your prayers. So that's how we explain the reason why many people don't get their prayers answered. They're not coming close to that wish-fulfilling tree of the Kalpataru tradition in India. Coming close in that way would be meditating directly upon the Lord. And before that, you would be taking teachings on the Lord, which we'll be doing today. And prior to that, hopefully you'll just hear about the Lord. And along the way, we hope you'll hear also about his divine consort called the Divine Mother of the Universe, or the Mahashakti, or Mahamaya. All of her names are very auspicious, and they point to her different aspects. She's the many-armed goddess when you see her as Durga, sometimes 16 arms, and sometimes 10, sometimes 8, and then Mother Kali with 4. With Mother Sarada, it was just 2, at least physically speaking, and she came to us in this day and age and made many of the white people who came to her in India her devotees as well, which we count ourselves among them. So very propitious, very fortuitous, and that's why I say it's a very great privilege to be able to speak about her. She's rather humble and hidden. Lajja Patavritti Sharada Gyana Dayake, the song about her, famous song about her, one of them is written, means she's in modest veil all the time. So sometimes it would be even hard to see her when she was in the body. She was so withdrawn. One day some people came to see her and asked the gatekeeper where she was, where they could find her. And he said, and he'd been the gatekeeper for years and years. He said, well, I hear she lives here in the temple, but I've never seen her. So she would pass out of the gates to take her bath in the river very early in the morning before he was actually on duty, and then go back into modest hiding there and serve the devotees. And so this very hidden treasure was the great mother of the universe. And Sri Ramakrishna used to say about her, she's like a village cat that rolls in ashes. You have maybe a yellow cat or a strange colored cat, and the other cats pick on it, you see, because it's different than them. So it rolls in ashes to make itself look more like them. I think it's a very apt analogy for the way Sri Sarada Devi, the Holy Mother, our mother, appeared here on earth, rolled in the ashes of everyday worldly occurrences and happenings, just cooking and so forth. One person came to see her because he had heard that she was the divine consort and wife of Sri Ramakrishna, who by that time had passed, and who was getting very well known as illumined soul, possibly even an incarnation of God there in India. People were beginning to think that. So one man came to see her and walked up and found her. She was there on the ground on her knees, kneading bread and serving the devotees. And she asked him to speak, and he said, "I just wondering, uh, you're the divine mother of the universe, they say, and here I see you engaged in all of these everyday activities like the rest of us." That's that rolling in ashes we just referred to. But she was also doing it not just to hide herself, but to serve, to be able to serve us on the level that we needed it, all her children. So she sat up and said, "It's true, I am involved in all of this like the rest of you, but anytime I want, I can reach inside my heart and take out my Atman like a jewel and look at it and remind myself who I am, and then place it back in my heart and go on with my worldly duties, earthly duties." So that's a very famous and ancient adage in India, coming from the Hasta Amalaka Stotram back to Shankar's age and before, where it's called a fruit in the palm of the hand, hasta. So the devotee is supposed to be able to do that, act in the world, put away all the things that might offend people. Yeah, maybe the people of other religions, maybe the people who did not accept the existence of God and were not religious or spiritual like yourself. So you don't want to call any undue attention to yourself in that way. So you have that fruit that is in the palm of your hand. You should be able to take that out in all your daily activities and say, all action takes place in nature, in Maya, in the body. It doesn't take place in myself. Myself is actionless, karmaless. It's not a matter of fruits and gaining fruits or losing fruits. Loss and gain don't apply to it. So that's how she would explain with very simple analogies these beautiful teachings that are a warp and woof of Vedanta and are found in other great traditions like Yoga, Tantra, and Samkhya. And these are all orthodox darshanas, which they say in the scriptures belong to her. And she reveals them, they do not reveal her. And as they can't explain her because she's that subtle, she's that hidden. But as you'll see by some of the teachings we'll be launching into today, is that she herself makes allusion to the fact that these powers are hers, and that she brings them out and brings them to earth when she needs them to accomplish her work, her very special work of protecting her children and leading them towards freedom, salvation first, maybe even liberation, granting upon them the two greatest treasures that you could achieve: Brahmagyan, knowledge of God, the highest non-dual knowledge of God, and Prema Bhakti, the deepest, sweetest, most intimate love for the Lord. So Brahmagyan and Prema Bhakti would be the apex, the crown of all attainments, all fruits you might be able to ask the Lord for. So you know how it probably was when you were young, is that if you had something to ask, some favor to ask, you'd probably go to your mother rather than your father. The father might be inclined to say, in most cases, no, that's not necessary. You stay home. And you go to your mother and she would say yes and then beg the case to your father. So that's how Vivekananda used to say it too. Mother is 1,000 times more gracious than father. So he had for his a special thing, he said, quoting him in English actually, "My special thing is the Divine Mother. You do not understand her yet, but she'll come to understand her." And that happens when you get the revelation of her over time. You're going to have to do some certain specialized practices, whether you want to call them tantric rituals, whether you want to call them yogic sadhana, whether you want to call them Vedantic thinking and thought, Samkhya cosmology, studying that. These are some special practices that endear you to her, and she'll begin to to look upon you and say, "Oh, they've crossed that uh, that bridge, and now I can show them my the deeper meaning of myself, and they'll be able to understand it. It won't be like, say, strewing pearls before swine, as Jesus said, that you go there and try and explain abstruse spiritual truths or deep faith just to people who don't have the grounding for it yet. They're not going to understand it. It'll be rather wasted on on them, and it'll be a waste of time for you. So when this qualification, we call it achara, you become qualified to hear the message, then she will begin to reveal herself to you by degrees as you're able to accept it and also forbear it. She said, in this world, there are so many troubles and trials my children have to pass through. So I tell them the one greatest quality for that is forbearance. So if you can forbear all of the insinuations of Maya, forbear all the insults of antagonistic people, and forbear all the presence of war and violence and aggression, and forbear the superficiality of what's going on around you, and keep your mind fixed on the Divine Mother of the universe, then she'll grant you that special vision of a third eye. It's called the Jnana Chakshu, like Sri Krishna in the Gita, or If Thine Eye Be Single by Jesus. So all of these teachings come down funnel-like through a channel to be related and transmitted to people who are of like mind, who are seeking deeper and searching further for the truth of life and existence. And know that it has to come through the personal God first, and then eventually that will mature into a vision of the impersonal. And in our tradition, we have both Brahman and Shakti, that is, the Lord beyond attributes, pure conscious awareness, could call it, well described by Advaita Vedanta, by Buddhist schools, and by some Islamic and Sufi schools too. But then also you have this personal God called Ishvara, or the Savior, or that being who is the nearest and dearest to you. A beautiful name for the personal God is Antaryami, the inner ruler, immortal, seated in your heart. So it infers that it's both vast and transcendent of all names and forms and time and space. At the same time, it's locked into your own being and your inmost heart, the Antaryami. Antar means inner. So Antaryami, Ishtam, Isha, Ishvara, Ishvari can be in both male and female form, is what we see then when you see the appearance of beings like Rama and Sita so far long ago, and then after that, Krishna and Radha. And along the way, divine couples like Muhammad and Fatima in that tradition, and then Jesus and Mary in another tradition. And then finally, up to this current time, you see Sri Ramakrishna and Sarada Devi, the most contemporary manifestation and expression of divinity through the Shiva and Shakti vehicle, through that male and feminine divine presence, equally balanced and able to fulfill everything that the devotees of this day and age, which is quite demanding, require and need for their peace of mind, and after peace of mind, for their ultimate freedom, to be released from the bonds of name and form, time and space, or from the cycle of samsara, if you want to call it that. So I brought a few charts as usual to represent the teachings of Sri Sarada Devi. And if you remember the retreat that we did take just recently, we showed this chart, and I want to start out with it because it falls along close to the trajectory that we stated in our subtitle for this class. If you've seen it on the web, basically is that Sri Sarada Devi was the essence of all goddesses. There's a beautiful song which I could sing, but I'll just save us my ancient squeaky voice this time, and tell you that it says basically that she's Jaya Bhavatarini, Sita, Radha, Mata Mary, Yashodhara, Krishna, Vishnu, Priyama. So one line of the song says that. Beautiful. It's Jaya Bhavatarini, the Durga, the mother with the 10 arms, with the mother of all moods, all divine moods, and who is compassionate, Bhavatarini. That's the first word. And then it goes on to say, Sita Radha. So there we have Sita, the divine consort of Ram, one of the most ancient of avatars, that is still worshipped by millions of people, magnificently enough. And then Krishna and Radha, Sita Radha. So Radha means the beloved of Krishna, who is the avatar and divine consort who came after Ram and Sita in India. And then goes on to say very beautifully in this one verse, Mata Mary. Mata means mother in Indian dialects. And Mary, of course, means the divine consort of Jesus. So, Jaya Bhavatarini, Sita Radha, Mata Mary. Yashodhara, do you know who Yashodhara was? Because a lot of people don't. Because you don't think of Lord Buddha as having a wife. But Yashodhara was the wife of Lord Buddha before he left the palace and went into his ascetic life in the forest, before he left the confines of King Sakya's palace, his father. Much like Sri Rama did with his father, and thousands of years earlier. King Dasarata went into the forest too, went on pilgrimage and saw suffering, basically. So Ram left the palace of Koshala kingdom of King Dasarata, his father, saw suffering. Buddha left the palace of King Sakya, his father's palace, and saw suffering. Four signs of suffering, in that case, if you remember them. As he went out in one day, and in one day saw these four signs of suffering, which gave rise to Suffering Is teachings, the great Four Noble Truths. So this is why India and Buddhism are the same. You cannot separate them. You can look at Buddhism as a religion that was taken on foot to many different countries and had its own different branches, much like Christianity has too. But basically, you can't really take Theravada Buddhism out of India, and it's got to be seen as those teachings that are specific to Mother India. And so, back to the song, Jaya Bhavatarini, Sita Radha Mata Mary, Yashodhara, that's Buddha's wife, Vishnu Priya, that is the most dear to Vishnu, which would be Lakshmi, so or Narayani. And so beautiful lines of those kinds of songs have been written very recently. That's a song in Kannada dialect in India, which I learned when I went there to India. And so that kind of introduces the subtitle along with this chart for the many manifestations of Sri Sarada Devi. She has come again. Sita has come again. She's here amongst us as the Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi for those years of her life up until the 1920s and 30s. And so she has brought us this precious uh, um, teaching about Divine Mother reality. And I think it will be explained well by some of these selections of quotes that we've taken out of her scripture. So in the first chapter, Skanda 1, first section that is, Skanda 1, the 9th chapter in that section, she says, the wisest of knowers of Brahman have declared the primal force of the omniscient Shakti, which pervades everything, duly confers upon all other entities her incomparable animating power. They have come to know her, the Brahmani Devi Shakti, as the highest supreme being, the only constant, undiminishing, eternal reality in existence. Thus they meditate upon her in heart and mind and try to serve her in every way. This is the settled conclusion of all the Shastras. It's all the scriptures of the different darshanas of India. And to make that more clear and to give it more accent, another quote at the bottom of this chart says, that primal force, the Adya Shakti, Adya means the primordial or first, the original, places even the Trinity, that is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, into motionless state of Nidra Samadhi at the time of Pralaya. So you have to be up a bit on some of your Sanskrit terms in the tradition. Pralaya is the end of a very long cycle of yugas in which everything comes back to formlessness. The circle has come full arc, and it's now back to withdrawing everything that it manifested back to an unmanifested state. And that's true of nature with it comes out of seeds in the mind and then turns into seeds here on earth, which give rise to everything, trees, human beings. And then when that manifestation is done, everything gets drawn back towards this pralaya, it's called. We like to say, maybe in English, dissolution. So draw that back to the source. So everything is Father of Yoga says that too. He says everything she takes to the soul and draws it back to its force, back to its source, and strips away name and form and nature from it. So first she gives it name and form, which is in nature, and it plays, if you will, among the fields of the Lord. And then a long period of that, called a yuga, or 4 yugas, called a Mahayuga, that play comes to an end. And then everything is drawn back through her Shakti force, through her prana, to her psychic prana, to her Shakti, and back into Brahman. And then she says at the end of that, I myself am latent in Brahman at the end of Mahayuga. So everything is projected, sustained, and withdrawn. That's why she says here, the primal force called Ajishakti places even the Trinity in Nidra Samadhi. And so there's another term you have to know. Nidra is sleep, basically, deep sleep. So it's a kind of samadhi. All of you had it last night. Congratulations, you've had samadhi. So now let's try and make it a more conscious deep sleep state, because there you'll see the seeds of everything that I was just speaking about, that everything comes out of seeds in the mind and gets watered with certain powers and certain energies, manifests the form and then dissolves it and gives it up. You know, this isn't just happening over 4 yugas, Mahayuga, but this is happening every 24 hours too. It's as if Mother has built into the package of cycles, you know, the ability for you to give them up and to bring them to an end whenever you want. That is in daily waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti, there's Turiya that's at the foundation of it, the 4th state. So there's a 1st state of waking, 2nd state of dreaming, 3rd state of deep sleep, but it's all based in Turiya, which is formlessness, highest awareness. Turiya just simply means the 4th. So he wants you to know that in your triple state of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, there's an underlying substratum where consciousness is nameless, formless, timeless, birthless, deathless, and eternal, and as she says here, all-pervasive. And that all-pervasiveness is in everything here too. That's the cohesiveness of everything. Everything, like I said, everyone has a mother. So if you have to talk to, say, an agnostic who doesn't believe in God, then the first question you could probably ask them is, well, do you have a mother? So nobody can deny that, you see. So it automatically takes the soul back to the fact that I have a source. And if I have a source and a mother and a father, then they must have had a source and a mother and a father. And if you take that back deep enough, you'll find they're the mother and father of all beings. What I was just speaking about, Ishvara and Ishvari. You must find them. And your great, 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 great grandparents back in long folds of time. See, so you'll be conferring with them in dreaming and deep sleep quite often, and over your life, a life of 80 to 100 years. So in that way, you see how everything is connected back inside to this Ajashakti. And she, Bhagavati Mahamaya, she always putting these beautiful names for her, which are by the hundreds and thousands of names she has. In the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, for instance, I could sing you some of the verses basically that are taken from quite a few 101,000 named stotrams in these scriptures. That's why some of the scriptures are so long, because some chapters are taken up all by just chanting to her names. And all these names have great significance. Could be that we've forgotten the meaning of our names. So if here in the West, so if somebody comes up and asks you why you're named Bill or Sally, or you're going to have to do some research to find out what those names mean. And they might have just been given to you without much a forethought, you see. But in India, and particularly with the divine names, you'll find that they have very deep meanings to them, and they confer teachings when you bring them up. So you can't just say Bhagavati Mahamaya without thinking about the mother of the Lord, Bhagavati, because Bhagavan's the Lord, and then Mahamaya, the mother of the great enchantress of everything that's on display here, not only outwardly but inwardly. The inner worlds, the kingdoms of heaven within you, are also presided over by this Mahamaya. She's the mother of the Lord. And so first she mentions here the Trinity, right? They'll wake, Brahma will wake out of a lotus. Metaphor is the lotus comes up and out of Vishnu's navel because he's sleeping in Akarnava, this ocean of waters, of subtle waters of existence, waters of existence. So he's sleeping there in Nidra Samadhi because she's put him there. And when she wants to wake him up, then this lotus comes up out of his navel, opens, and there's Lord Brahma sitting there with his four faces, looking in four directions, starts chanting the four Vedas, which are eternal. So very beautiful symbology in that. And all the lotus that unfolds is a 1,000-petal lotus, like the one at the top of the seven chakras, the Sahasrara it's called, in Kundalini Yoga system. So you just go looking deeper and deeper for significance and deep meaning, and you'll find it. And you might have to take recourse to a few luminaries who have studied the tradition, teachers, guides, gurus, acharyas, so forth, and then they can explain this to you. So it's like recall to you. See, I see, that makes so much sense. Now I can explain all the worlds of name and form and time and space based on karma that go back to the beginningless beginning of time. See, now I can see it all. And I can see it all where? Inside of me, inside of the mind that's projecting it. So there's a beautiful song in India. Mother Kali is flying mind kites in the bazaar of mundane human awareness. So it's like each one of our heads is a kite, connected to all these strings, and she's got the hand around it, and she's, they're connected by these strings, And they're all playing in the bazaar of mundane human existence, having different experiences there at the fair of life, the bazaar of life. And then at the end, she said, every once in a while, because of the sharp glass that the string is made, it cuts itself. And one of the kites moves up into the high levels of consciousness, and she claps and dances, claps her hands and dances. Oh, one of them got free from insipid pleasures, gathering insipid pleasures in the marketplace of mundane human existence. This is the way the wordage comes to us through our founder, Lex Sixon, whose birthday is on Christmas. So these are why, if you're availed of the language, the Deva Bhasha, the Sanskrit, and these names and these words come to you, that you probably couldn't get more than one or two of them out of your mouth without going into samadhi. It's a kind of samadhi that you're in when you start entertaining wisdom. It's not the samadhi that's, okay, I'm gone and gone forever, mahanirvana. It's a kind of samadhi that wisdom comes from a source, and that source is my mother, and that's all within me. I'm finding her within inside of myself. So when these words are spoken, it takes me away from the marketplace of mundane human convention and places me in a high state, even while in the body. See, because the transcendent samadhi, it might say goodbye to the body. You have that for, maybe 7, 11, 12 days. If a soul gets that samadhi, sometimes like a blown off leaf in a gale, Sri Ramakrishna called, you might leave the body in that case. But this samadhi is one that endears you to life in the body and makes life in the body so fulfilling. And it's called Jivan Mukta, right? A living liberated soul. And you have free access to this all the time. So this is that peace of mind she confers upon you. There's no, and if you have a little forbearance, she said, remember, then you can have this right inside of your own life in this Kali Yuga here in the West, in a materialistic society, in a human body made of 5 elements, born from the womb of a woman. You can have that right here, right now, if you open to it. So this is what Bhagavati Mahamaya, Durga Devi, says. It goes on, she has brought all worlds under her control. She is all wealth, Shri, fame, Kirti, as well as Mati, intellect, Dhriti, fortitude, Kanti, beauty, Shraddha, faith, Rati, enjoyment. Wisely, the greatest souls have become eyewitnesses of her divine nature, and as a result have no further cause for doubt or debate. So in just 3 sentences there, you have a mind full of high-minded teachings to meditate and contemplate on, and to celebrate right here on her birthday, to know that she has come here into your very life in your very time, and has made you recipient to Guru path and teachings, Guru Dharma Sangha. And all of these are of extreme worth and value. So we're seeing then her multivaried powers. And right there, probably the highest thing you could cite to prove her power should be Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva fell under her control. And all the worlds are under her control. It sounds like the goddess of the universe, doesn't it? The goddess of all words. I mean, because if you go to the source of these worlds, it's got to come from the Trinity. So if the Trinity is in her, obeying her commands, then she's the mother of the universe, getting all her work done through Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And then come the gods and goddesses. That's next year. See this little, at her feet, you see this pantheon of gods. And here's a quote from the skanda of this scripture. Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, that's Shiva. Sun, moon, that's Surya and Chandra. Sometimes they use English, sometimes if you're familiar more with the Hindu names for the gods than Vedic and Tantric, then they'll use the original name. Like here, Indra, that's the god of the gods, and Indrani is his consort. So every god has this female counterpart or consort that's helping him um, fulfill his life mission in whatever level of existence they are operating at. The Ashwin twins, if you have any kind of illness, you probably want to go to them. They're great healers. The Vasus, Vishvakarma, Kuvera, also known as Skanda, Varuna, Agni, that's the god of fire, Vayu, god of air, Pusha, Sadanan, and Ganesha, the elephant-headed god, all are united with Shakti and are unable to move themselves without her. So it wouldn't take any debate or any argument to say to yourself, what moves me? What puts me to sleep? What wakes me up in the morning? What makes me think I want to go over there, across the road, or get in a car and drive down a road? That's that very subtle power that she's animating you with. There are physical signs of it, prana, but even if you look at those, are subtle. And so we're about here on Christmas. So if you take up, say, man does not live by bread alone, you could take that in many directions, actually, and interpret that. But in this perspective, it says man does not live by bread alone. He lives by the Shakti power who has produced the food that's giving him energy. And also without food, for many days, a woman can move around and still be animated by some force that's obviously not coming from food at that time because they haven't been eating. Breath is also a sign of that prana. It's the subtle, secret, invisible sign that you live, is that you breathe. It's very connected to I am. So first you say I breathe, and then you say I am. If you say I am before you say I breathe, then you're missing a few steps in your full contemplation and understanding of the ways in which she reaches people through her animating power. That animating power is called Shakti. That has to be seen in order to see her. So there again, you see Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Sun, Moon, Indra, Ashvin twins, the Vasus, Vishvakarma, Kuvera, Varuna, Agni, Vayu, Pusha, Sadanan, and Ganesha all have united with her, and none of them can move without her. Sri Ramakrishna said that about Sri Sarada Devi once. Without her, as he indicated her as she was in the room, without her I can't even lift my finger. You see. So that Shakti power is undeniable, unarguable. All you have to do is think, what causes my eyes to see, what causes my ears to hear, what causes my lips to speak, what causes my mind to form thoughts, what's the cause of everything? And how does that get turned off and make me sleep? You see? So you're under the control of something else. And we hope that's not ignorance. That is, we hope that's not non-knowing or unknowing, the lack of knowledge. But that prana that animates everything is coming from an all-knowing source. And that's what's causing intelligent minds to think. All you'd have to do would be Om Nicho Nichanam Chaitana Chaitananam. Basically, this chant from the Upanishads is basically the eternal among non-eternal things and the intelligence of the most intelligent ones. So you might find some people there that are hopefully just temporarily missing their intelligence, not acting the way they should. But nonetheless, you can look in another direction and find a lot of very profound souls who have very magnificent intellects. So how do you explain that? See, how did they get those? And where does that intelligence come from that makes them have these positive thoughts for the good, highest good of all living beings? This is the kind of analysis you'd want to do if you were a devotee of the Divine Mother and you were looking for her in all the right places. So here's a further way of saying this. She is the creative power in Lord Brahma. So if Lord Brahma is the one who comes up out of the navel of Shiva and on that lotus, everything opens up and he says the bijams and the worlds start in another cycle. So he initiates the cycle of another great Mahayuga each time after Pralaya is gone. And he does that with these words that he speaks into the divine atmosphere that are given to him by her. She gives him the bijams. And we went through all the bijams at the retreat that we showed this chart. So you can look back on that too. The bijams are power words that have the ability to start something in motion, animate thing with a sound, with a thought and a sound. That's the beauty of non-duality and wisdom. So she gave Lord Brahma the power to create. He was sleeping before. She woke him up. Okay, here's the bijams. Get busy. It's time for another cycle. She's also the preservative force of Lord Vishnu. She's the destructive force of Rudra. That is, she can dissolve everything in a thrice. She appears as supporting force in Kurma and Ananta. Now, Kurma, of course, the avatar of the turtle, right? So he can support everything on his back, swim in the ocean, but yet support the whole world's on his back. So the supporting force in everything, in beings like Kurma, and also the supporting force in everything that's infinite, that moves into the finite and then goes back to the infinite again. Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamadachate, as we like to chant. So that infinity is not just a vacuous void, but it's got a foundation upon which it produces and which it dissolves. And so she's also there as the burning power in Surya and Agni. So Surya is, of course, the god of the sun. Rashmimantam, Vivasmantam, Devasurana Muskritam, the Rig Veda says. Basically, that's that power of fulfillment and animation that shines from the sun, that causes everything to grow. And so Rig Veda salutes the god of the sun in that way. And so it's nice to bring that out as a teaching. Ramakrishna selected that one actually when he said Brahma and Shakti are like fire and its power to burn. I wanted to show their oneness when he said that. You can't really separate them into two. You can't have one without the other. So that you can't have fire without its burning power and water without its wetness. So those are ways of looking at the deities in fire and water and how those deities manifest themselves in these Divine Mother's expressions. She's the moving force in Vayu. Remember how the winds blow across the world and how air moves and so forth. How your breathing moves, is a kind of Vayu, breathing in and breathing out all the time. So she's the actual moving force of Vayu. So, you can go and study as we have done in the West, all the five elements, but we're not looking at the power that's in the five elements to be the five elements. And then we go to the senses and we look at them and we We analyze them, but we're not looking in the power that's causing the eye to see. We're looking at what it sees. And we're not looking at the Guru's meaning in the words. We're just hearing the words. So this is why the five elements and the five senses have to be studied from the yogic standpoint. The father of yoga said, you want to meditate upon those as powers, as deities. But as you do, don't just get lost in what the sense is doing, like tasting the food or seeing the object or feeling or touching things. But instead, draw back from it and said, how is it that I'm able to see that object? How is it that I'm able to feel things? It's probably when you were young, maybe at some time you were running around playing outside and you said, how do I do this? You see, how do I run? Well, why can I run this way anytime I want? You see, and all of a sudden stop and be silent anytime I want. You see, so that's that animating power of Shakti that's so subtle that we have to stop the functions of the senses in order to see the senses. We have to stop the operations of the elements in order to see the elements. I mean, basically just call it vipassana if you want. Just call it meditation on something. You're drawing back from it so you can see it as it really is. That's the whole truth around vipassana, is I want to see things as they really are. So in order to do that, you can't become involved in the operations of the things that are doing the seeing, that are doing the touching, that are doing the hearing, that are doing the smelling, that are doing the feeling. You have to stop and ask, what's the power in them? And let me locate that, draw it out, and meditate on it. And then she'll laugh, clap her hands, and dance. Oh, you found my secret. You see how subtle I am. I'm there in everything. I'm there in something as minuscule seeming as senses and objects having their relations. But I'm also there in the power of Brahma to create the whole thing, and Vishnu to preserve it all for long, long periods of time, and Shiva to bring it horribly all to a halt, screeching halt, and dissolve it all on the spot when the time is there, according to my command. I think of that more when I think of the moving force of Vayu. You can go out, you can feel the wind. Oh, how cool! You smell that, and you can get involved in the pleasures of the senses. But the actual miracle of the moving air and what's causing it is something for reflection and deep meditation. Stillness that comes from that. The other's not stillness, it's enjoyment. So the opposite of enjoyment is stillness. You can enjoy something much better when you witness it than when you're involved in it. When you're involved in it, it comes to an end. When you're witnessing it, there's no end. As the purifying power of Varuna, and we know how water just purifies everything. So water is like a religion to some people. I'll stand up and be counted for that because I love to be in water and swim. I surfed when I was young and lost myself in the ocean, the beauty of the ocean. And no better metaphor really for just dissolving in all pervasiveness than to get into water. And most everyone feels that, unless they have some karma that makes them afraid of water. You have to do some purificatory work at that time. But if you can go into water and just have immediately the feeling of holiness, sacred water, then that's a very powerful thing. She's there as the pervasive presence in Akasha. So there's where you're leaving the realm of purification, water. You're going beyond the elevation of feeling and seeing. And you're even going beyond the sensation of hearing, although it's very connected with Akasha, is that now we're going into the very idea that she has somehow created the space for all of this to happen. Here you're going to have to extract space out of everything that's happening in it, you see. as extracting power that you have. Why? Because she put that discriminating power in you. And that's why Akasha in the chakras, for instance, is beginning to meditating on the chakras, both in Tibetan Buddhism and in Kundalini Yoga. You'll notice it. Well, where did Akasha go? You see, why isn't it given assignment? It's because it went into the mind where it came from. So when you're meditating up the chakras and you're putting it together with the 5 elements in both Tibetan Buddhism and in Kundalini Yoga, then it's just like everything dissolves, and it has to dissolve in a sort of prerequisite matrix, and that would be the Akasha. So one of the things that one of the reasons why we're missing our belief in and our exploration of subtle worlds beyond the physical matter is that we don't know about the 5 Akashas. We only know about one Akasha, and we're restricted to it. When you, again, go into dreaming and deep sleep, you've entered a different Akasha. You still have senses there, subtle ones. You still see objects. You still taste things. Our beautiful founder of our San Francisco Center was in my dream 2 nights ago, perfectly alive, happy, and new, fresh. Bhavatarini is her name, named after the mother. And so those names and forms in subtle space exist inside of you. It seems to you like they're fleeting. That's because you're only visiting them once in a while. But if you went there permanently, called death, then you would drop this body, you would go to live in a different atmosphere. Your soul is now in a different level of consciousness. It's shifted. And that's one of the reasons why you practice meditation, to see the shifts of consciousness happen in you. Like, for instance, where did the Akasha go? Where did everything go? Why is everything light now? Or why is everything turned to sound, right? I'm hearing the Om, or I'm seeing Jyoti, Chaitanya Jyoti. I'm seeing the light of consciousness all of a sudden. Not with these eyes externally, but that helped me, because I understood through the eyes what it was, who it was that was animating and giving me the ability to see. So all of those things, I think I covered them all. She's the creative power of Lord Brahma, the preservative force in Lord Vishnu, the destructive force in Rudra, the supporting force in Kurma, burning power in sun and fire, the moving force in air, Vayu, and the purifying power of Varuna, water, and the pervasive presence in the Akashas. So this takes apart more this whole pantheon of gods, which is why I've often said that India and its philosophy doesn't divorce or separate principles from their deities. Oh, if I see something there, there's a deity that's in it. So that's almost another way of saying mother's there, right? Mother has put some sort of bit of awareness there in water. She's put some sort of, atmosphere of knowledge in the mind. And those are gods. They can be called gods. They don't have to be called gods either, if you're not into gods and so forth, seeing it that way. So, but this is how another good way to see the presence of Shakti moving through everything, if she's left a sign there for you. And like she's left a soul inside of each one of us, an Atman. And those Atmans, that Atman is all one to her, one soul. One of the other teachings here is Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. She's got these 4 fruits that she confers upon beings. That's another sign that she's present. How come you got the teachings and I never did? You see, how come she favored you with all this wisdom, but this person's ignorant? How come you've got bliss and that one's suffering? See, God must be very partial. So that's because she gives those beings dharma and artha and kama, that is wealth uh, uh, and the fulfillment of desires in life based upon those teachings that she's given you. If that dharma isn't there first, as you see in some societies in the world today, particularly, that the children aren't getting these high teachings because the parents never got them, because the parents never had them for so long. So if you put the dharma back in the quotient, then you can see how people are living divine lives and fulfilling themselves before they depart the body, and they're leaving and getting moksha. See, then at the end she gives you liberation from the trammels, from the variations, from the vicissitudes of this world bewitching Maya, with all its illnesses, its diseases, on all levels of being. She protects her precious spiritual children that way. So here we're talking about the teachings of the Divine Mother and the recent incarnation of Sri Sarada Devi, who's the essence of all gods and goddesses. So maybe I'll kavacha all of you right now. And as I did at the retreat, everyone's watching can have some of this Devi Darshana. It'd be a nice way of putting it. So in the fifth section of the scripture, Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, in chapter 28, this prayer comes forth from the gods. Let all the goddesses destroy evil beings and thus free the world from dangers. Let the gods get their share of sacrifices. Let the Brahmanas perform sacrificial acts. Let all beings attain happiness. Let all calamities proceeding from weather, war, and pestilence come to an end. Let clouds bestow rain and soil yield ample harvests. Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, Skanda 5, chapter 28. So just following that utterance, then she appears and shows herself and bestows these blessings upon people. So there you see, as we talk about the essence of all gods and goddesses in this class, you can see these forms of the Devi here. And they're all listed there in the scripture. First is Ambika Devi, and second's Padmalochana, then Parvati, there's Sita, there's Varahi, Durga, Kali, Parameshwari, Matangi, Bhavani, whom Shankara sang hymns to, Girija, Chamunda, Kamaga Devi, Vaishnavi Devi, and Bhairavi Devi, all there bestowing their blessings. So the luminary would pronounce these. So Ambika Devi, they say about her, may Ambika Devi protect your front. Say that. May Ambika Devi protect your front. May Padmalochana protect your back. May Shiva Devi protect all around you. May Varahi Devi protect your endeavors. May Durga Devi protect your abode. May Kali Devi protect your battles. May Parameshwari protect your earthly endeavors. May Matanga Devi protect your union. May Bhavani Devi protect you from royalty. May Girija Devi protect your voyages. May Chamunda protect your passing. May Kamaga Devi protect your paths. May Vaishnavi Devi protect your faith. May Bhairavi Devi protect you from enemies. Yes, so may she protect us all around. So the puja, you go like this with your hands, you take it up to your head, you take it back to your head, back to your heart again. So may we be protected on all sides, in, out, outside, left, right, up, down, by the protective energy of the goddess of the universe, Divine Mother. So that's a list of some of the main aspects of the goddess. We said there are hundreds and thousands of names for the goddess in the scriptures, but there's always also, sometimes they boil that down to these few, and then other times they'll boil it down to what's called Prakriti Panchana, 5 of them. That's Durga, which includes, of course, Kali, and then Saraswati, Lakshmi, Savitri Devi, and Radha Devi. So that's been a sort of a more current coalescence and concentration of 5 great manifestations of the Divine Mother of the universe, so that we can comprehend her. See, and pretty much covers the gamut of things when you put in all of our needs for wealth with Lakshmi and our interest in arts and learning with Saraswati, and the need for love with Radha, and so forth. Then you can see how the manifestation of all the gods and goddesses are very important to us in this day and age. We have to bring them back and look in upon them, meditate upon them. So over here we have more specifically one or two of the teachings of the Matri Avatar, and I think forget how many of these I produced right now. I think something like 15 of them, and we've taught them at retreat once before, and they're part of a book now that's not quite finished, but is almost finished. And it's going to be sort of a Footfalls of the Rishis, Volume 2, because it has all the new charts that I've been creating since that book came out under this heading. And so as a backdrop to this book, then basically we had these teachings of the Matri Avatar chart. These are some of the sayings we heard Sri Sarada Devi say and got recorded later down in books. So on the left-hand side here is something that's very specific to our topic. She says, after non-dual knowledge dawns, God and all vanish into nothing. Mother, in the end, my mother pervades the whole universe. Everything becomes one. This is the simple truth. One of her very powerful, profound sayings and admittances about how she's here full on in the present incarnation of Sri Sarada Devi, and puts it in such a way. So again, she's the mother of the scriptures, and she's the mother of Advaita. So she says here, after non-dual knowledge dawns. So people are through with awakening spiritually. They've done some practices. They've accomplished their rituals. They've gone on pilgrimage and so forth. And she says that up here at the top, she says, about your spiritual duties, People no doubt say that pilgrimages during inauspicious times are prohibited. One can then postpone a holy day out of the consideration of time. But look, death takes no notice of time. Since death has no fixed hours, and no one knows when it will open for business, one should perform holy duties as soon as the opportunity arises. So here's how she puts into perspective this animating power she sends through us, and tells the mind, you ought to go on this pilgrimage, you ought to do this duty, you ought to fulfill this karma, and in that way you'll be led towards this after non-dual knowledge begins to dawn, when those duties are completed. Then you'll see everything vanish into me. Everything will be drawn back into me. And it doesn't have to wait for pralaya. Pralaya is a dissolution of everyone and everything, whether they know about her or not, back to the source. The source seeds for nature, and the source of consciousness for living beings. But beings in the flow of time can get out of the flow of time and immediately have everything vanish for them, like saying here. They can have samadhi in the flow, in the midst of their life, in the midst of cycles. They can have it right here in the Kali Yuga, because they have been dedicated to her and devout. And they've qualified themselves for the dawning of non-dual wisdom. So the mother always has this along with her in her teachings. She herself will be offering flowers at the altar to the deities, and she herself will then also have non-dual samadhi. She said, once the great light came to me like an ocean, washed over me, and I was completely unconscious for days, and I was filled with bliss for days. And first I felt like I was drowning, she said, and then that calmed down, and what was left over was just nothing but bliss inside of me. So she's telling one of her precious experiences of how this remembrance of her true nature returned to her, just sitting in the midst of everyday action. So this is why we want to keep our practices going. We want to keep the rituals going. We want to keep our studies going. And we want to keep selfless service going in the field of karma, karma yoga, so that at this predestined time determined by her, she will grant this highest experience of non-dual wisdom, will be qualified for it. And it'll be just a matter of her auspicious timing that it'll happen. I think I remember a saying of hers where she said that some people at the time will not be at all spiritual or look very religious their whole life. At the time of death, all of a sudden they'll have everything. So she noticed that with people who were close to her, people who were living religious lives in India at the time, that there'd be cases of those people who would have beatific vision and get everything at the time of leaving the body. But she does say here then, death takes no notice of time. Nobody knows when it opens for business. So God of death open the doors and say, okay, I'm open, who's ready? And so you want to be able to say that you finished all of your duties and you went on pilgrimage and you completed your rituals, you studied the Bhagavad Gita, you took in classes with your teacher, you went on retreats, you intensified your spiritual practices. All of these things ongoing will make you fit for and ready for having the visitation of the Divine Mother of the Universe. And along that line then, she says, does a man of knowledge ever really fear rebirth? He does not commit any indiscretion. It is the ignorant people who are always seized with fear. They alone get entangled and become polluted by sins. So she again advises the attainment of this this higher knowledge. What does a man or a woman feel a fear of death when they have this Gyanim, when they have this knowledge that they're birthless, deathless souls? That puts all that fear and that doubt away. That's the number 10 um, teaching of the Mantra Avatar chart out of 15 of them. And it's number 5 has some more beautiful teachings of the Divine Mother, Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi. And she's always giving away these teachings about the your father and your mother. It's very important how you come to families. She says, it is God alone who has become father and mother. God alone looks after us. Otherwise, where were you? And where are you now? Your parents brought you up, but at last you realized that you do not belong to them. So there's also similar teachings of that in Sufi tradition and Christianity about how the children are not your own, that you're just there to caretake them as they appear to you. They're gifts from her to you. So you have to make sure that you would give them that Dharma teaching that you got, hopefully from your parents, that would save them, that would fulfill them, artha, that would fulfill their desires, kama, and that would leave them free at the end of their life with this non-dual wisdom called moksha. About that family, she says again, everything, husband, wife, even the body, is only illusory. These are the shackles of illusion. Unless you can free yourself from these bonds, you will never be able to go to the other shore of the world. So that problem with that cycle of samsara is that people get on it and then they're reborn again. They don't get the teachings in any given lifetime and therefore forget the remembrance of their true self, the Atman. And then they can come back again unbeknownst to them. They'll think themselves to be bodies. They'll identify with the life of physical only, and they won't realize these kingdoms of heaven within them, and also that their soul contains all of them, the Atman. So she says to support that, for so many cycles did the munis and rishis of old practice austerities in order to realize God. And you believe that you will attain him in a flash? Is it so easy to realize God? So there again, she's pointing to those teachings of that qualify a person for higher life, for realization, for the absolute assurance that I am the Atman, I am Atma Brahma, and that my mother is taking care of me at all times and is guiding me. Otherwise, there are so many people who don't have that awakening in lifetimes and can get into that cycle of samsara, as the Buddha said, and be reborn again and again without this higher wisdom. And one of the practices that she recommends again and again, they say, called her Japaharini, is the practice of the mantra. That's why we're being given it here in the West so much, is that there are some great thinkers that saw our condition here in the Kali Yuga, in the materialistic West particularly, and said, what's the quickest way we can reach these souls that can help them save themselves would be through the divine name of the Lord. And the mantra is that for the sincere and serious practitioner. So she says, if you were destined to to receive a wound as wide as a plowshare, you will get a pinprick at least. Karma's effects can be counteracted greatly by japa and austerities. So because of some actions done, there's this karma created external that's coming towards you closer all the time. Some of these get put off to another lifetime. Some of these take a soul from lifetime to lifetime if they're not neutralized. And so she says, by doing the mantra, that's be one of the wisest practices you could undertake because the mantra of the Lord given to you by the illumined soul, transmitted to you at the time on a holy day, and straight from guru to disciple, has the power to reduce that karma that's coming your way. So instead of a plowshare, as you're going to get a big sword cut, she used to say, when a sword is destined to fall, a pin must still prick. So the recitation of the mantra every day will neutralize greatly the effects of that karma coming your way. It's like a freight train's coming your way, and as it came closer and closer, it turned into just one boxcar, and then finally it turned into a fly, then it turned into a mosquito, and then a flea, and bounced off you. So the recitation of the mantra will reduce that karma headed your way, and so that's why beings, even very advanced spiritual beings, are still using the mantra to diminish the karmas that are always forming. That is, like Shankara is saying, the mirror of the mind has to be wiped clean all the time. So that would be one of the ways of wiping it clean, is using that mantra every day. And among those people who do use the mantra, she says, there are two classes of devotees. One class devotes itself to the service of God, like here on earth. The other remains immersed in meditation for ages. Immersed in meditation, the enlightened ones remain as they are, like wooden statues for ages. When God needs them, he brings them down from their respective places. Very beautiful, and only the Divine Mother of the universe would know this and would be able to explain it so clearly. All the dynamics are right there. First, she separates out these sincere people from the insincere, and then she puts the sincere people into two categories, and she sees how one of them are serving people all the time, and that others are sitting still like wooden statues for ages. She used to say that about her son, Naren. That is her spiritual son, who was later Swami Vivekananda. Oh, Naren sits still like a wooden statue for 700 years at a time. So she would see certain souls have the ability to just turn everything off and draw everything back in. And just as I was explaining earlier in this class, witness everything that's going on and get the greatest amount of bliss and the greatest amount of exquisite pleasure, rasam, rasmimantam, samudmantam, I just chanted from the Rig Veda, like the sun god, gets the exquisite amount of from everything so that he just shines everything on everyone else. So that's a good way of explaining a statue-like being like Swami Vivekananda when he's not embodied. He can go and witness. And he used to say himself, I will come back again and help the world and every soul until they know they're one with Brahman. With a vow he took and said to us. So we could go on, for hours and hours talking about these beautiful teachings of the Matri Avatar, gathered from her sayings that we heard the Divine Mother say herself. But as the time has run out on this Holy Mother's birthday day, just prior to Christmas, we can end and move on towards our own worship after the camera, all of you looking on, leave us. We're going to do some worship of Holy Mother here in our shrine. And so in that way, we invite you all to do the same in your home shrines. And remember Sri Sarada Devi, the Holy Mother, deeply inside of your own consciousness. Bhagavati Devi Paramashakti Mahamai Sanatani Devi Yoganindra Devi Parashakti Devi Nirguna Maheshwari Devi Devi Brahma Mai Leela Mai Devi Sarva Chaitanya Rupa Mahakali Devi Mahalakshmi Triloka Shivani Devi Mahavidya Mahamai Shri Devi Padam Shri Devi Padam Shri Devi Padam Shri Devi Padam Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Pado Padme Toye Shritva Pranamami Mahur Mahur Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om, Hari Om.